On the night of September 7th, 2025, the skies will bleed red. Billions of eyes will rise to the heavens, caught in awe, caught in fear, as the moon transforms into a crimson orb. It will hang there, silent, glowing, as if the earth itself had dipped it into blood. For the scientists, this night is already written a total lunar eclipse, nothing more than an alignment of sun, earth, and moon. Predictable, explainable, ordinary. But for the seekers of mystery, for the prophets, the visionaries, and the broken-hearted searching for signs, this night may be more than science. It may be a message, not written in books or carved in stone, but in light, cast across the canvas of the cosmos. A message humanity may not be ready to hear, but cannot afford to ignore. The blood moon has always stirred something deep in the human soul. Across ages, across cultures, its scarlet glow was never seen as just an accident of nature. It was a sign, a warning, a call to look up. Ancient rabbis whispered of it in trembling voices. Christian mystics prayed beneath it. Islamic scholars studied it. Indigenous storytellers passed its meaning down like sacred fire. When the moon turned red, they said, heaven was speaking. And the Bible itself, in Joel 2:31, thunders, "The sun shall be turned to darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes." That was not poetry. That was prophecy. The blood-red moon marked a threshold, a crossing, the moment where the ordinary flow of time ends and the extraordinary hand of God breaks in. And now, here we are. The year is 2025. The world is restless, torn between light and shadow. Wars rage across borders. The seas rise against our cities. Storms grow louder, angrier, swallowing coastlines. Economies stumble, nations fracture, and technology runs faster than our morality can follow. Humanity stands at a cliff's edge, and above us, the heavens prepare to bleed. So when you look up that night, when the blood moon stares back at you, will you call it coincidence, or will you recognize it for what it has always been? A mirror, reflecting not just the sky, but the soul of mankind. Few voices resonate more clearly across time than that of Edgar Cayce, the man the world came to know as the sleeping prophet. Born in 1877, Cayce possessed a gift few could comprehend. In trance-like states, he claimed to access a realm of knowledge beyond ordinary human perception, a place where past, present, and future intertwined. He spoke of healing, of lives past and lives yet to come, of civilizations lost to memory, and, perhaps most strikingly, of the path humanity walks, and where it might lead. Cayce warned that the heavens themselves carry messages. Comets, stars, eclipses, these are not mere ornaments of the night sky. According to him, they are mirrors, reflecting the moral and spiritual state of mankind. When humanity drifts from love, from compassion, from humility, the earth itself responds. He spoke of floods that swallow cities, earthquakes that rend the land, shifting poles, violent upheavals not as random accidents, but as consequences of spiritual neglect. Cayce believed that consciousness and cosmos are intertwined, that the outer world mirrors the inner world. Consider the moon turning red. On the surface, it is just a shadow of the earth between the sun and moon. But Cayce urged us to see deeper. Perhaps it is the shadow of our choices, of our greed, our violence, our collective forgetting of the sacred. And this is where the blood moon of 2025 enters the story. It will not appear in a vacuum. It comes at a time already marked by turmoil, by events that defy easy explanation. In recent years, we have watched wildfires consume entire regions, storms tear apart cities, nations teeter on the brink, and the very ground beneath us shake with unusual intensity. We have witnessed strange phenomena in the sky's unexplained lights, celestial bodies that demand our attention, an increasing fascination with what lies beyond our world. And now, this eclipse arrives. It does not simply join the list of anomalies. It stands as a crimson exclamation mark, painted across the heavens, a message we cannot ignore. But what, exactly, are we being shown? Prophecy. Prophecy is rarely straightforward. It does not hand us neatly labeled answers. Instead, it weaves mystery into symbol, inviting us to know, challenging us to wrestle with meaning. The prophets of old, they did not hand out calendars or precise dates. They gave warnings. They pointed to events, to images, to signs. And in doing so, they asked one thing: prepare your hearts, not to predict the day of judgment, but to be ready to awaken. The blood moon is one such sign. It asks us, quietly yet insistently, are we listening? Are we willing to hear beyond the spectacle, beyond the mere beauty or the fear it inspires? The ancients believed we should. In Hebrew tradition, eclipses were considered omens, messages etched in the sky. The Talmud speaks of them as warnings to nations. In Christian tradition, the blood moon became intertwined with visions of the end times. The book of Revelation speaks of the sixth seal being opened, and John beholds the moon turning to blood, a cosmic signal that the world is shifting. In Islamic tradition, eclipses remind us of the divine, that even the most steadfast heavenly bodies obey the will of God. And for indigenous peoples from the Americas to Africa to Asia, the blood moon held deep spiritual weight. It marked cycles of death and rebirth, endings and new beginnings. So, what happens when these traditions converge in our time? A time when humanity pushes the limits of what Earth can bear. A time when morality itself is contested, confused. A time when the night sky suddenly burns red, like a warning etched in the heavens. Could this be more than a symbol? Could it be a warning that the cycle of renewal is near? That we stand on the precipice between collapse and awakening? Edgar Cayce believed so. In his trance readings, he spoke often urgently of the signs of the times. He described celestial events that mirrored shifts on Earth itself. He warned of coastal flooding, of New York sinking beneath the waves, of California trembling with catastrophic quakes, of Europe reshaped by water, and dramatic upheavals across Asia. And he tied these shifts not merely to natural forces, but to humanity's moral compass. Cayce's visions were clear. If humanity lived in harmony, the earth would remain calm. But if humanity persisted in selfishness, in violence, in greed, the earth would respond. She would convulse. She would shake. She would remind us painfully that we are part of her, and she is part of us. When we see a blood moon rise, we are not merely witnessing the earth's shadow stretching across the moon. No, perhaps, just perhaps, we are seeing the shadow of our own choices rising before us. Pause here for a moment. Imagine what it means for the moon, our silent, steadfast companion through the nights, the mirror of the sun, the keeper of tides and time, to suddenly turn to blood. It is as though creation itself is staging a drama, a cosmic reminder, a whisper to humanity that nothing is permanent, that what we think is stable, secure, or unshakable is fragile. The blood moon says, remember, life is fragile. History bends toward turning points. No empire, no system, no generation is exempt from reckoning. And so, as September 7th, 2025 approaches, we are confronted with a question. Is this night merely another spectacle to marvel at, or is it a crossroads, a moment where prophecy and reality brush against each other? Skeptics will say this is superstition. They will claim the blood moon is nothing more than sunlight bent and filtered through Earth's atmosphere. Scientifically, they are correct. But science has never denied prophecy. It merely explains the how. Prophecy explains the why. The rainbow can be scientifically dissected, yet in Scripture it became a covenant with Noah. The star of Bethlehem, perhaps an astronomical alignment, yet it signified the birth of Christ. The trembling of the earth, caused by shifting tectonic plates, yet in the eyes of the ancients, it was the voice of God shaking nations. Science tells us how, prophecy tells us why. And here lies the deeper truth. The blood moon of 2025 may be explained, but its timing, its symbolism, its resonance with ancient warnings cannot be easily dismissed. For as we gaze upward on that fateful night, perhaps we will not just see a celestial event. Perhaps we will see a spiritual mirror reflecting the choices of humanity and the path that lies ahead. When the moon turns to blood, ask yourself, are we watching history unfold or prophecy reveal itself? Consider where we are now. Wars are multiplying, not decreasing. Nations arm themselves to the teeth, while millions starve. The climate trembles under the weight of our consumption. Families fracture, communities dissolve, and spiritual hunger deepens even in the age of instant information. Technology promised salvation, yet often delivers addiction, isolation. The world is advancing. Yes, but advancing toward what? Have we, as Edgar Cayce feared, lost our moral bearings to such a degree that the cosmos itself begins to echo back a warning? On September 7th, when the moon rises crimson, will we see it only with our eyes, or will we see it with our souls? The message may not be one of despair, but of choice. Prophecy is not fatalism, it is invitation. When Joel spoke of the moon turning to blood, he did not leave it as doom. He followed it with a promise. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. The blood moon is not the end. It is the warning before the end, the chance to turn, to awaken, to realign. Edgar Cayce echoed this sentiment. He did not believe humanity was doomed. He believed humanity had the power to shift the future by shifting its spirit. So, perhaps the blood moon of 2025 is not announcing inevitable destruction. Perhaps it is announcing opportunity. Opportunity to choose compassion over cruelty, humility over arrogance, faith over fear. But if the invitation is ignored, then the warnings of Cayce may unfold with terrifying accuracy. Let us imagine, for a moment, that the blood moon is indeed a prophecy. What might it mean? It could mean the approach of upheaval, not in some distant century, but in our lifetimes. It could mean the beginning of natural shifts, as the Earth's balance tips further under the strain of human neglect. It could mean wars, escalating to levels not seen in generations. It could mean the unveiling of truths long hidden, secrets brought to light, systems exposed. Blood moons have always been tied to both calamity and revelation. And revelation, remember, is not only about disaster. It is about uncovering, about truth coming into view. So, when the moon turns blood, let us ask ourselves not just what will happen, but who we will become. And isn't that what we are witnessing already? Systems faltering, truths surfacing, shadows of darkness dragged into the light. Could it be that the blood moon of 2025 is more than just a celestial event? Could it be a signpost in this unfolding story, a cosmic headline that reads simply, "The time is now"? If that is true, then the message is unmistakable. Humanity must awaken. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. The prophets spoke not to instill fear, but to spark transformation. Fear, it paralyzes. Awareness, it awakens. And awareness is exactly what this blood moon demands of us. This is why we cannot dismiss it as mere spectacle. Beneath its haunting beauty lies a question that stares back at each of us. What kind of world will we create when the crimson light fades and the moon returns to its ordinary glow? Will we drift back into slumber, Or will we awaken to the truth that the heavens are not silent, that they are pleading with us, urging us to change course? The night of the blood moon is not merely about looking up. Soft in hail, it is about looking inward. When the moon turns crimson, it stages a cosmic drama above us, yes, but it is also a mirror, reflecting the drama within humanity itself. Pause the eternal clash between light and shadow, love and hatred, humility and pride. It has always been this way. Joel spoke of the moon turning to blood, and he placed it before what he called the great and terrible day of the Lord. Emphasize, slowly listen to the weight of those words. They do not speak of mere destruction. They speak of accountability, of a day when what has been hidden will be revealed, when every choice, every action will come due. To ignore such a sign is to blind oneself to the urgency of the times. And if there has ever been an urgent time, it is now. The year 2025 has already been marked by intensity. Strange atmospheric phenomena, record-breaking heat and flooding, unexpected tremors shaking the earth, and political divisions that seem irreconcilable, all signs of a world on edge. And yet, amidst the chaos, humanity often seeks distraction rather than reflection. Soft laugh, almost a sigh, we turn to entertainment, to noise, to busyness. Anything to avoid the deeper question, the one that quietly haunts the soul. Pause, what is all of this trying to tell us? The blood moon pierces through that noise. Long pause, it demands that we lift our eyes and ask the question we have long avoided. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, warned repeatedly that humanity's moral compass determines the fate of the world. Civilizations rise and fall not merely through economics or military might, but through alignment with spiritual truth. Reflective pause. Cayce spoke of Atlantis, a civilization of astonishing power, undone by greed, pride, and the misuse of technology. Pause, softer tone, and he warned that modern humanity is repeating those very mistakes. And what better symbol of that warning than a blood moon rising over a world intoxicated with technology, yet starving for meaning? In one of his most striking readings, Cayce spoke of times when the earth shall be broken up in many places, and of upheavals in the South Pacific and the Indian Ocean. He tied such turmoil to celestial movements and shifts. What if the blood moon is one of those markers? Slight pause, not that the moon itself causes disaster, but that its redness signals a mirror held up to humanity, to the choices that tip the balance of nature itself. This is not a night to fear, but a night to reflect. Gentle breath to look within, to examine our hearts, to ask ourselves if we are building or destroying. Pause, because the moon does not lie, the signs do not lie, and the consequences will not wait. The blood moon rises, crimson, silent, and it asks us, who will we be in the shadow of its light? To grasp the weight of this moment, we must look back through the corridors of history, times when the heavens themselves seemed to speak, when blood moons appeared not in isolation, but as harbingers of profound change. In 1493 and 1494, a tetrad of blood moons rose over a world in flux, the Spanish expulsion of the Jews and the dawn of a new world. Centuries later, the same celestial pattern marked the birth of the modern state of Israel in 1948, and again in 1967, during the Six-Day War. The crimson moon traced the sky above nations trembling with uncertainty. Time and again, the blood moon aligns with transformation, upheaval, revelation, and now, in 2025, as the world seems to teeter on the edge, as old orders crumble and chaos whispers at every corner, yet another crimson moon prepares to rise. And so the question presses, urgent and unyielding, is it mere coincidence or a cosmic message? Mystics will tell you that the heavens do not act in vain. Every movement, every glow, every shadow is a whisper, a reminder that we are not alone, that the universe itself is interwoven with meaning. And if the moon turns to blood while nations clash, While the earth shakes, while technology races beyond understanding, perhaps this is not only a warning, it is a call to awaken. But awaken to what? How does one respond to prophecy, not with fear, but with clarity and purpose? That is the deeper question beneath the crimson light. Edgar Cayce often reminded us the future is never fixed. Prophecy is not a chain around our fate. It is a mirror reflecting the consequences of our choices. Visions of disaster are not inevitabilities carved in stone. They are guidance, urging us to act, to change, to choose. The blood moon does not promise destruction. It offers something more profound, choice. It confronts us with a question we cannot ignore: whether to walk toward the light or descend further into shadow. Imagine it. September 7th, 2025. The moon blood red above you. The night still, silent, yet alive with awe. And in that quiet, in the very core of your being, a question rises soft, insistent. What path will you choose? That is the essence of prophecy, not to frighten, but to awaken, to stir the soul toward decision. And in that stirring lies hope, the hope that we are not merely witnesses of the future, but its authors. And this is where humanity stands today, at a crossroads. One path leads to humility, to compassion, to justice, to spiritual renewal. The other leads to pride, to greed, to conflict, to collapse. The blood moon rises as a signpost, a celestial warning pointing to the fork. Which way will we go? It is crucial to understand prophecy is never just about nations or leaders. It is about each person, you or me, every soul walking this earth. The moon turning crimson, it is not only a global sign, it is personal. Each of us is being asked, will you realign with the truth of God's law written into creation itself? Will you choose to repent, to forgive, to seek justice, to love your neighbor as yourself? Because collective transformation begins with individual transformation. A world cannot change if its people do not. The prophets, they understood this. They did not speak only to kings. They spoke to the people. They warned, they pleaded, they wept, because they knew every soul mattered. Listen to the words of the book of Joel. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. Notice, it does not say nations or rulers. It says whosoever. That means you. That means me. That means anyone willing to lift their eyes not only to the sky, but to heaven itself. Edgar Cayce, he too emphasized the personal. He told people again and again that prayer, meditation, service, love, these were the antidotes to catastrophe. He did not offer a blueprint of escape through technology or politics. He offered a path of spiritual awakening. He said, if enough people turned toward God, the earth itself would be calmed. The storms would lessen. The upheavals would ease. The future would brighten. Imagine that. The blood moon rising, not as a harbinger of doom, but as a reminder of the power we hold to shift the course of history by shifting our hearts. But what if we do not listen? What if humanity shrugs off the sign, dismisses it as mere coincidence, and continues down the path of greed, violence, and neglect? Then the warnings of Cayce and the prophets become far more sobering. We could witness natural disasters escalating, economies collapsing, wars multiplying, societies unraveling, the very foundations of the earth trembling in ways we have not seen before. The blood moon, in that case, would not be the end itself. It would be the announcement that the end of an age is drawing near, and perhaps That is precisely what makes the blood moon of 2025 so profound. It is not an end. No, it is a threshold, a moment when the heavens themselves seem to pause, to shift, to cry out, choose now. For tomorrow may be too late. There is a weight to prophecy that can feel overwhelming, but it was never meant to crush us with fear. It was meant to awaken us with urgency. The blood moon of 2025 is not calling us to despair. It is calling us to decision. It is telling us that the age of drifting is over. Neutrality is no longer an option. The heavens themselves are demanding a response. When that crimson moon rises, remember, it is not silent. It speaks. It speaks of ancient prophecies now unfolding before our eyes. It speaks of Edgar Cayce's warnings echoing louder than ever. It speaks of the fragility of civilizations and the resilience of those who choose the path of light. It speaks of danger and of deliverance ever so near. And above all, it speaks to you. What will you do? How will you live when the moon turns to blood? Will you close your eyes to its message? Or will you hear it deep in your soul as the invitation it was always meant to be? Because when the moon turns red, the question is not merely what we are seeing, but what we are being shown. As the crimson glow slowly fades from the moon and the night gradually returns to its ordinary silver hue, one truth remains, unwavering: the blood moon, it was never meant to last forever. It appears for a fleeting moment in history, it seizes our attention, captures our wonder, and then it passes. But the memory of it lingers, and with it a question echoes through the quiet of the night. What will humanity do in the days after the sign has come and gone? Will we dismiss it as nothing more than a passing spectacle? Or will we recognize it as a turning point, a symbol that quietly demands a response, if only we have the courage to listen? Prophecy is not interested in moments that entertain. It is concerned with moments that transform. The prophets of old, and voices like Edgar Cayce, did not point to celestial signs to impress or mystify. They pointed to them to awaken us, to show us the spiritual truths woven into creation itself, hidden in plain sight. A blood moon is a natural phenomenon, yes, but it is also a stage upon which the heavens declare in their silent, unyielding way. The time is short. The choices you make matter. The consequences are near. Think about it. A full moon is usually a symbol of stability, brightness, constancy, comfort. And yet, in a single night, the same moon turns to blood, as if to remind us nothing in this world is guaranteed. Permanence gives way to fragility. Light is replaced by shadow. Beauty becomes foreboding. This is the nature of prophecy. It pulls back the veil and whispers the truth. Everything we take for granted is but a vapor. Only what is eternal will remain. For Edgar Cayce, this truth was unavoidable. He saw that humanity's destiny is not separate from the earth's destiny. He described how the collective soul of mankind would determine whether the planet enters turmoil or peace. The blood moon of 2025 is not merely a shadow on the moon. It is a shadow on our conscience, a reminder that our actions ripple outward through creation itself. The greed that exploits the earth, the violence that divides nations, the pride that refuses humility. All of this leaves its mark not only on human history, but on the earth's very balance. And when the balance tips, the signs appear in the skies. But here is where hope shines, because prophecy is not designed to trap us in fear. It exists to awaken us. Just as the moon returns from crimson to silver, so too can humanity return from darkness to light. The sign does not condemn. It calls us to repentance, to humility, to faith, to love. Even in the darkest hour, deliverance is possible. Joel declared it. Whoever calls on the name of the Lord will be delivered. This is not a metaphor. It is a promise. And promises are what sustain us when the signs shake us. The blood moon shakes us awake. But the promise steadies our hearts. It says, if we humble ourselves, if we realign with the Creator, then there is hope. Hope not only for ourselves, not only for nations, but for the earth itself. This is why the blood moon is not the end of the story. No, it is the beginning of a new chapter. And whether that chapter is written in calamity or in renewal depends entirely on what we do next. That is the power of prophecy. It does not chain us to fate. It does not dictate our end. Rather, it invites us into destiny. So, as the world prepares for September 7th, 2025, we face a choice. Will we meet that night with apathy, dismissing it as mere astronomy? Or will we meet it with reverence, recognizing that the heavens themselves are whispering something we dare not ignore? The difference will determine not only how we see the moon that night, but how we live after it. Imagine for a moment millions across the globe choosing to take the sign seriously. Imagine families gathering not merely to watch the eclipse, but to pray, to reflect, to realign. Imagine communities setting aside division, choosing reconciliation. Imagine leaders seeing in the crimson moon a reminder of their duty to serve with humility rather than pride. Imagine what could change if humanity saw the blood moon not as entertainment, but as invitation. The storms might ease. The fractures might begin to heal. The very earth itself might calm. This is not wishful thinking. It is the very principle that Cayce and the prophets declared. Change the spirit, and you change the future. Transform the heart, and you transform the world. The moon turning to blood is dramatic, yes, but the greater miracle is what can happen in the hearts of those who see it and choose to respond. Yet the warning remains. If humanity ignores the sign, if we harden our hearts, continuing on the path of destruction, then the crimson moon may indeed be the herald of darker days. Wars could escalate beyond control. Natural disasters could strike with unprecedented force. The very foundations of the earth could shake, until the illusion of permanence shatters before our eyes. The prophets spoke of such times, and Cayce echoed them. They did not speak to frighten us. They spoke to prepare us. This is the sobering truth. The blood moon of 2025 is a crossroads. It will either be remembered as the night humanity began to awaken, or as the night the final warnings were ignored. Which way the story turns is not written in the stars. It is written in us. And so the invitation stands. On that night, when you lift your eyes and see the moon drenched in crimson, do not look away. Do not dismiss it. Do not bury the stirring in your soul. Instead, ask yourself, what is being shown to me? What must I change? Which path will I choose? For the moon does not turn to blood to entertain. It turns to blood to awaken. As the night passes and the moon slowly regains its silver glow, may we not simply return to business as usual. May we remember that we were shown a sign, a mirror reflecting our times, a prophecy unfolding before our very eyes. And may we choose, with urgency and with hope, to walk the path that leads not to ruin, but to renewal. The heavens have spoken. The question is, are we listening?